There's a whole swath of cheating allegations and just buzz around competitive Magic that I wanted to break down today because I think a lot of people are forgetting why this is happening. Fundamental changes to the judge program, no accountability for repeat cheaters, and with the current state of competitive paper Magic, it's really hard for people to justify spending so much money on their precious cardboard. I don't want to bury the lead though, there's a lot that we have to go through, but before we do, I want you to let me know in the comment section down below, what should we do about cheating in competitive Magic? What are some of the long-term solutions and what do you feel like is the crux of the problem? I was originally going to ignore this whole topic because I thought it was going to blow over. It was related to Matt Nass's victory around the Pro Tour. Now, he deserved his win, but it was around controversies regarding his opponent and another clip that's been circling around about like untapping lands. Regardless, all of it accumulated to this tweet by Pleasant Kenobi, and I thought, why not? Let's hop on the bandwagon and yap a little bit. So Mr. Kenobi says, I keep seeing people saying that cheating is more common in competitive and higher Magic, more than ever right now. Why do you think this is? What's happening to do this, or at least the perception of it happening? What's going on right now? And we're gonna come back to this tweet. So I wanted to break it all down here and provide an explanation from a judging program level, the structure of competitive and what's wrong with it, and then ultimately come back to these specific allegations. But we do have to start with the one that sparked it all. A situation that I don't personally think is cheating, but we'll let everyone kind of figure it out. So we had someone tweet out here, how is this not cheating on camera is even more ridiculous. So we're just gonna kind of mute this. The audio doesn't necessarily matter. We have Helena Break at the bottom on Esper Paragon. And then we have Jacob Nagro on Gruul Mice. So I don't need to hide anything. What you want to pay attention to is Helena's mana and what's being drawn here. And I can kind of break this down. So let's press play and I'll kind of point out what's happening. So they tap 4 mana, they play out a creature that provides a lot of value. This creature will walk through, gains life, creates some tokens, and draws a card. There's a lot happening based on what your opponent's doing. A card that generally pays you off better once you read it for you going second most of the time, but something's gained here. So they draw a card, right? So they gain information here. They already tapped their mana. They're writing some stuff down here and they're kind of setting their board and they're like, wait, I meant to tap this way. They untap, right? They tap a different way after tapping. An opponent's like, wait a second, that's not how you tapped. Okay, that's fine. All right, so yeah, that's how the board state is, and they'll move on. So right now, the reason that matters is, as you'll see at the bottom, Helena's actually playing Esper Paragon. So based on the mana that they have, it's more in their favor to have, I guess, more options, different types of mana depending on the spells in their hand. We don't know what that is. I don't think it really matters for the sake of this clip. In this vacuum, this is an action that's not allowed, right? They are generally untapping or retapping their mana after gaining information. If they cast the spell, maybe they could call the judge and say, oops, I meant to tap this way. The problem is, secondly is that they gain information. They drew a card. So let's walk through this with the card itself. So Beza the Bounding Spirit, white into legendary creature Elemental Elk. When Beza enters, create a treasure token. If your opponent controls more land than you gain 4 life if your opponent has more life than you, and then you create 2 1/1 blue, fish tokens if your opponent controls more creatures. Draw a card if an opponent has more cards in hand than you. So this card is really powerful. It does reward you for going second, as I was mentioning. Generally speaking, your opponent, if you go second, you can play this, get a treasure token, then play a land. Your opponent has more lands than you. They might have more cards than you. It really depends, like stuff like that. So they played this out. They gained the life. They didn't gain the tokens. They drew the card though, right? And they didn't gain the treasure token. They had more lands. So they gained the information and went to go untap. And so that is the discussion that a lot of people are having as to whether or not this is cheating. And me personally, I don't think it's cheating. I think an honest mistake happened. That doesn't mean it doesn't go unpunished though. That's the whole point with the comprehensive rules. A lot of times people do make mistakes. For example, I've had multiple times, because I generally play really fast. Sometimes I don't think, I overthink sometimes. You'll see that in my gameplay. A common thing that happens to me in paper is that when I go to play, especially when I go for the win, sometimes I shortcut and you can't do that, right? A lot of times you do have to let things play out in a certain way. So the perfect example of this is actually, I went to go cast a Glimpse the Unthinkable for the win. And I actually had to fetch to cast that. So I cast a spell, was trying to see if they counted that or not. And then at that point, with that spell resolving, Glimpse is like 100% lethal. They definitely cannot interact with it. I pretty much locked out all options because I cast another mail spell. I saw the rest of their options were in their graveyard. I'm like, okay, I pretty much just need to fetch and win. So what I did was I fetched. I didn't present my opponent the ability to randomize the deck on their own, and I just cast Glimpse. So I was given a warning. I wasn't given a game loss, which is fine. I get it, but that's what it's meant for. You are meant to track these. Judges are meant to come by and make sure that the game state is being appropriately managed, because I may not have the full information. Maybe there is some random spell that they could be casting, but to my knowledge, it's not open deck list. To my knowledge, generally speaking, in these strategies, they would not have an answer. My opponent would not have anything. But it's important because, you know, they gave me a game loss. It's important to manage these type of things, because even though I did win at that point, you need to upkeep the rules of the game. So even in this point, I do not believe Helena was cheating, but something went wrong. They tried to switch up their mana, which isn't appropriate at a Pro Tour level. This is at a high tier level. If you win the Pro Tour, if you place high at the Pro Tour, you get an invite to Magic Worlds. That's the cream of the crop. Those are the best players. A lot of people in olden days of Magic, back in my day, people dreamed of playing on the Pro Tour, going to a GP, top 8ing or winning it all in a Cinderella story event and winning at the Pro Tour. It's considered one of the highest tiers of Magic, and they brought it back recently as well. In terms of Magic history, it was pretty recent, but it means that you have to be playing at a higher caliber, and you can't be making mistakes like that. If you tapped your mana and gained that information of the card, now that card, for as far as I know, that card is a card that you can now cast by tapping your mana correctly. You tapped your mana in such a way with the information that you have, but now you drew a card and you're tapping in a different way. That is the idea that maybe it's cheating. I personally don't believe so, but you could believe otherwise. Regardless, I think we're all in agreement that something should have happened. Like some type of warning, or if it was seen as cheating, maybe a game loss. A big thing with cheating is like there has to be there's some type of intent seen. I don't believe there was intent to cheat, especially because it was caught, it was stopped. Like it's kind of a gray area. I could see some type of like warning or something happening in that situation if they tried that. Now, with the whole conversation around competitive Magic, there's something we need to break down in terms of its structure, because yes, you do need to be playing at a higher level, but it also means that for the average player, a lot of times when they make it to the Pro Tour, they've gone through many different tournaments where they maybe have been allowed to do this, because the system is actually, there's a lot of steps, right? And to be fair, it's actually a pretty clearly laid out system, but it can be confusing in terms of its implementation. So generally speaking, you play at a regional championship qualifier, an RCQ. You then play at the regional championship for your region. North America, South America, whatever it might be, right? I don't know the region specific stuff, but for your region. Regional championships. You play at the RCQ, then you play at the less number of RCs. So there's going to be less RCs available. And then you play at the Pro Tour. So in this case, MagicCon Chicago, the main event was the Pro Tour being standard as the format. And then after that, you go to Magic Worlds, which usually happens, especially this year, still to my knowledge, to be happening at MagicCon Las Vegas. So the big cream of the crop premier event, a lot of creators show up, a lot of events happening, a lot of crazy big events outside of the Magic World Championship, a lot of fun in general. I wish I could go. I hope to go one day, but regardless, there's a lot of steps. So you can imagine there's a lot of RCQs, still a fair amount of RCs, and a lot of Magic happening at those levels. A lot of cream of the crop, like high tier players just getting filtered out by the various competitions, by various randomness. So a lot of things are happening that are generally not being caught, because the only people catching them are going to be the judges. And that's going to be a conversation for later as well. But when it comes to gaming the system here, especially close to the end of the season, where you need to just qualify for an RC to get to the Pro Tour, especially close to the end of that, that's when you get into cheating situations like this. Now, I'm going to leave the whole video up to the creator over here. Power Dragon talks about how, you know, especially about a year ago, there was allegations of cheating in various smaller regions. So this one specifically is in Southeast Asia. So I'm going to link this video down below. Check it out. It's like the first section of the video. They've chaptered it off. If you want to watch the rest of it, then go ahead, go watch it. Leave a like on the video. Power Dragon is a great creator. So this video talks about how certain players are signing up for RCQs and paying a couple $100. No one's signing up for the RCQ, so by default they win the RCQ. So it's essentially paying a high amount, and then the store just after an hour or so lets you mark up as the win, or potentially boosting. So where a couple of players get into a smaller RCQ and kind of seed a certain player up to getting an RC invite to just get past the system. This is similar to the idea that in the old GP system, you had pros that had a lot of like planeswalker points by winning various events. And if you had a certain amount of events, or if you had a certain status, you would get buys out of the first couple of rounds of the GPs. GPs were long slogs. It was like 7 rounds and then you cut to top 8. It was long games. And I mean, 7 rounds. And then you actually went to a day 2, played a bunch of rounds and then still went to top 8 after that. Slogs of Magic, really big mental strength required, but especially in the early rounds of Magic, I think a lot of you can understand, especially if you play FNM with a lot of rounds. Like for example, at like face-to-face games, they play like 4 rounds, 4-0 pays out to like 50, very sweet FNM. But when it comes to that, especially in the first 2 rounds, it could be like a wild slog of anything. Once you get up to like round 2, round 3, round 4, that's when you're getting into the meta decks. You're probably coming up against the mid-range decks. You're coming up against Control. You're coming up against the Mox Opal Fiends, all that stuff when you're playing Modern. And so the whole idea of the buys is that you get past that slog and you start getting into the whole competitive thing. You get your buy around it. That was the big benefit for it. Now that could be seen as what's going on with the RCQs. You want to get around the casual person because RCQs are wide open, whereas RCs require that qualifier. You have to have won a qualifier to get to that point. So it gets past the bog and the randomness. Now you're playing against what a lot of people would consider to be the meta decks. I don't have to test for like random Modern tier 3 deck that I have no business of having any chance against. I can get past that, go to the RC where the serious people are, and actually, because of my skill as a player, can get to that point. Now this is alleged, it wasn't proven. I think some things were reported. It was something I made a video on, I believe like last year. It's been a hot minute. This was in June 6, 2024. But you can see how the system has ways to game it. And there's ways where loose things at lower levels were open access, albeit important, breeds some type of cheating. And this is where I believe the kind of untapping situation happened, where I believe it was an honest mistake. Like I think at some of these levels, like especially at FNM, like that's like perfectly fine. It's a small mistake, but can be seen as a cheat. Again, because they drew the card, they get the information, then they untap their mana, then they're like, oh, I kind of need this mana to cast this spell. That's where people can see that something like this is cheating. It's important to catch. Now that's the competitive system. Once we have the cheating though, someone's meant to catch it, right? It can't just be the players, because in this case, the opposing player actually did catch it. So who's in charge of catching all these competitive mistakes? Well, this is where the judge program comes in. When you don't pay, I should start off with the tweet I'm quote tweeting here. Lots of cheating discourse these days. Can someone explain to me why this is the case? We decided to go softer on warnings and stuff. Well, I said, when you don't pay, recognize, and celebrate your judges appropriately, then you're left with dedicated folks who love the game, but have no backing to enforce the rules of said game. Again, this is an anti-judge. This is for folks pinning it or not pinning it on the fact that there's no support for judges. I hope I got that across. The problem is that there's no support for the judge program, and there hasn't been for a very long time. It's hard to keep judges accountable because there's no overarching body. It's hard to report people. There are bad actors, but to my knowledge and my personal experience with judges, it has been largely positive. I know a lot of judges kind of in parallel. I'm not like personally close friends with them, but like I know them as creators. I interact with them. I have had largely positive experience with them. I've done videos on the channel that have been about negative judge experiences. That's okay, but my personal experience has been positive. And I believe the judge program, with the group of dedicated folks out there, with the great people in the program, have a positive experience on and a positive impact on the game of Magic the Gathering itself. And so this is where we go back to 2 years ago, almost 2 years, it's been a year and a half, where Wizards of the Coast ends its partnership with the Judge Academy program. So the Judge program, this is where you would sign up, you do your testing and everything. I remember I did it at some point, and oh Lord, was it tough. Like I didn't get past like the initial like judge test. I was like a Magic scrub. This was like back in like, oh Lord, it was like 2016 or something. I wanted to be a judge and everything. I love the game. I still do. I'm just approaching it from a different angle now with my content creation. But regardless, they end their partnership with it. We appreciate the work that Judge Academy has done for us over the past years in terms of its service. We are currently working with tournament organizers and stores for a new framework and approach to Magic judging. We do not expect this to change affect most events, or as organizers of major Magic events have close ties with and existing contracts with judges, they'll be unaffected. Now, it's been a year and a half, 2 years. No new framework has come about. And in response to this, a response was made on the Judge Academy site, and Judge Apps kind of posted this. So this is an open letter to all judges, and just a general FAQ. Wizards of the Coast will not be renewing their partnership. This means we will no longer be under contract with Wizards to provide services to the Magic Judge program after October 13th. I do not have specific information on Wizards' plan. However, Wizards has consistently expressed to me their understanding of the importance of judges, and I believe Wizards will select another entity to provide services for the Magic Judge program. Now, unfortunately, that hasn't happened yet, and the whole problem with judges is that it's a body of people that work in parallel with Wizards, but one that they've never chosen to pay. These aren't employees of Wizards. Wizards of the Coast can't afford to, pay them for, like benefits or travel or going to these events. A lot of times these judges are actually paying out of pocket, or they're having to make in-person negotiations with stores and tournament organizers to get payment and have these contracts made. So kind of in this thread, we'll see, it's wild to me, what's the scandal here. As a non-US Judge Academy was super US centric, and every other region basically got scraps. Conference approvals were always late this year, and communications was just never on point, even false. It just won't work out. Also, the company has a lot of financial problems. And so when it comes to stuff like this, it was just the fact that like Wizards of the Coast wasn't putting in enough resources into this program that fundamentally kept up its competitive scene, and they want to do so even less now, because with the advent of Commander, where you don't necessarily need judges, there aren't competitive level official events happening for Commander. CEDH is in some WotC backed system. They recognize CEDH as a format, but they're not officially hosting their tournaments. There isn't an official CEDH rules book. They still follow regular kind of Magic rules, but there is some soft rules that are kind of community led and driven around like conceding at instant speed and all that stuff. There is stuff like that. But it really is the idea that Wizards of the Coast refused to pay these people. They refused to pay people with their time, so they had to do so in backwards ways. So here you'll see that, how do judges get paid for their work? This was one from 6 years ago. First person says, there are all, and I'm sure I've missed some, the ways judge eke out value in the judge program. These are all the ways. So at Mythic Championship levels, remember Mythic Champions, so Pro Tier level stuff, WotC crafts a contract for each level 3 judge they bring on a staff. At Magic Fest, the kind of organizer themselves, so this is Channel Fireball, dictates compensation according to role, level, and task assignment. And at the local level, while judges are encouraged, depending on your area, to negotiate reasonable compensation rate between judges and TO, a lot of regions have a standard suggested rate. Moreover, more established TOs, regardless of size, will always be looking to compensate equal or more less than regular store employees. Additionally, there existed special recognition programs, the Exemplar program, through which all L2 or above judges wrote recommendations for exemplary work, and these eventual exemplars had the chance to receive judge brand foils. For work outside events, regional coordinator and program coordinators' unique positions of leadership were compensated by WotC for their work and dedication. Judge conferences, usually a day-long gathering filled with information presentation by other judges, also provided another opportunity for compensation, also in the form of judge foils for the time investment for being a judge. So again, none of this says that Wizards is directly giving these people a paycheck. There's compensation, but that doesn't mean they're given like employee benefits, health, dental, all that stuff. These are people taking time out of their lives, weekends, evenings, everything, to help enforce the game that they love, to make sure people can have a great time, cheaters can be stopped, people follow the rules, and they can be educated and learn the game better and have ultimately a better time in the gathering. It is Magic the Gathering. We are here to create the magic and use the magic, but ultimately enjoy the gathering of it all. Judges are one of the foundational pillars to this, not even just at the competitive level, but at an educational standpoint as well. It's really frustrating to see people kind of talk to cheaters and be like, oh, it's just competitive Magic, we need to bring this back, bring that back. No, we're not compensating our judges. We're not showing love to our judges. We are not holding Wizards accountable for the lack of judges. We are instead continuing to make Commander content, all this garbage, just like I am. I'll be perfectly, perfectly own up to that. But I also want to make videos like this owning up to the idea that we need to be compensating our judges. We cannot just be making top 5 lists, making top 10 cards, game changers, replacement, this, that. We can't be making all these damn videos, but not talking about the mistreatment of the very people that fundamentally hold up the game that we know and love. That is the problem here. We are not compensating our judges appropriately. We are not showing them the recognition they have, and we are just blowing up the idea of like the few bad eggs that are ruining the judge program. there are a vast majority of people, in my opinion, as with kind of you see in many other groups and in groups and just kind of gatherings, where it tends to be a vocal minority of people that tend to be the bad eggs or be the loudest, but it doesn't mean the rest of them are bad people either, right? It means that those people are likely being overshadowed, or they may just be too busy doing their job and actually being good judges instead of like letting cheaters through and making bad calls and everything. So ultimately, I think it's the judges that are, you know, the judge program is at the central bit of the issue. And when it came to compensation, you can see how sometimes in days of old, it was crazy. There was judge foil promo Gaia's Cradles. This thing's like, my camera's covering it. It's like 2.3K. Judge promo Wheel of Fortune is 1.5. Survival is like 1,000. Mana Crypts, Mox Opal, Imperial Seal. Like, yo, we got some crazy judge foils. Judge promos, some crazy promos. So this is how they indirectly compensated their judge program, not through direct cash, like an insert directly into their checking account. No. It was judge promos that they could like sell for some type of value. Of course, and then probably, you know, rules change and they're like, oh, you know, this is turning into this, and like, oh, this kind of look like compensation. Judges want more, and fair, they should demand more. In a world where everything's more expensive, we got the big ugly orange man constantly changing things in a US centric system, in a game primarily made in the US and distributed everywhere else, where people like in South America are just constantly being left to the wayside, and other countries that want to play Magic are being left at the wayside due to the lack of translations and lack of support in those regions. It's really frustrating to see, again, as said for the millionth time, that pillars of the community are not being supported by the central organization. Instead, we get secret layers after and after. We get creators that just peddle secret layers over and over again, when they could in fact be using their platforms and their streams to instead not push the best commander out of whatever set, to instead talk about the fact that judges aren't being supported. And of course, it's a controversial topic. You can't have folks like Game Nights and other big creators, especially in the commander space, talk about the problem with this. And you have Tolarian Community College that have made videos on this. He's very well known for being a critic. He's also brought up positive videos as well. But he can't constantly keep doing that, because videos like this, you know, you can't keep making it over and over again. People get tired of it as well. People like negativity, but they get tired of stuff like this as well. So you have to follow the algorithm. Ultimately, you are beholden, especially if you have staff, someone like Tolarian Community College, you're beholden to the, you know, the algorithm and you know, the way that Google and its various platforms want to pay you. And so you can only do that so much. Programs like this and certain creators like this, especially at a high level, but especially mid-level creators, I would consider myself a mid-level creator. We need to do a better job, instead of just peddling what's the cool shiny thing, going to, you know, Magic Cons and just doing whatever. We need to be promoting what's actually helping this game, and it's not just Commander. Let's be real with ourselves. I'm calling out all creators. Y'all need to do better. It's not just about what your 99 is made of and min-maxing your whatever, don't play brainstorm this, whatever. Hey, that was a specific reference to Trinket Mage. I'm not talking, it's not about creator to creator. I'm not talking smack specifically about it. It's just recently thinking about that when it came to, like, I was replacing card draw spells in my deck. I was putting stock up in there. But that's why I brought up. But regardless, I'm not calling out specific creators. I'm calling out creators at large, mid-level creators that have a large following, a variety of following. We need to be, you know, kind of bringing attention to the real issue and holding Wizards of the Coast accountable for something like this. And I think it especially came to a head when it came to something like this. So James Dimitrov, who came second at this past weekend's Pro Tour, Matt Nass won in the Domain Mirror. Congratulations to Matt Nass, our fellow combo player. When I think Matt Nass, I think many people as well think like combo eggs or KCI in Modern, just one of those specialists. So James says, this past weekend will always be bittersweet to me, as I feel I could have and should have been a champion. That's mad salt. You need to get over this. But it is what it is. What do you mean it is what it is? My man, did you get cheated on? Did you got, like, what do you mean it is what it is? Like this is like some ball up top type of garbage. What is this? I'm forever grateful for the opportunity to play against, you know, best from all around the world on the biggest stage, for everyone supporting me. This is a quote straight out of Scrub Quotes. Shout out to all my FGC folks out there that knows Scrub Quotes. 99% real quotes from real scrubs, adding talking in brackets. So essentially, this is just people from all parts of gaming, mostly the FGC, that just say dumb stuff, right? Like they just say really salty stuff like this. You're so carried by this garbage, effing trash, lick my nuts, all this stuff. Like, look at this BS, lol, LOL, lucky, whatever. You know, I should be winning. You just can't block or parry. Look at this. This is a scrub quote. What is this? I should have been a champion, but it is what it is. You're a loser. You know why this guy is a loser? Check it out. So Austin here, just had a recently kind of been interacting with him, but I've been talking about how I am really obsessed with the fragility and the power of like spy decks, so Balustrade Spy and like Goblin Char Belcher decks with MDFCs. Recently kind of put me onto the Belcher Spy like Discord, so really cool. So this recently came up for me on my feed. Well, that answers that. So James blocked Austin. Like, hey, yo, what? Yo, is Austin just some peddling crap garbage nonsense? Do I need to unfollow this man? But no. What's the context? Seems like an insane block out of nowhere. So the TLDR is they got DQ'd for cheating at the RC. Oh my God. They got disqualified for cheating at the RC, went to another RC, I guess, and still qualified for the Pro Tour, came second, and is talking about some scrub quote level I should have won garbage. And I think they outlined it at some point. They're like, oh, hindsight 2020, but if I tapped this way, I would have had removal for this, then would have been able to play for this and potentially made a play for lethal. Like, what are you talking about? Yo, own up to your L and move on. You just didn't make that decision. You're not him. You're not that person. Okay, you're playing hours of Magic. You know what? We got someone like Matt Nass that ultimately was able to make a better decision. You're not that guy. Why are you this salty? You're a cheater too. You're a loser. This is what I'm talking about. Somehow this competitive system has allowed people like this to continue through the brackets, get to the second place of the Pro Tour, second place at the PT, and then still get away with stuff like this. The judge program was able to capture this. Cheating was found. The judge program, unfunded, unsupported, unloved by many of you just classic Commander content creators out there. And I'm going to call out the Commander content creators because y'all are too busy doing that over there when really this game is being held up by judges. Because let's be honest, we can't get away from constructed Magic, which is why I like to make sure my channel is constructed focused. Even though I make Commander content, it's important to know that the judge program works, but even though when it works, the unfortunate system with our competitive Magic allows cheaters like this to get past and talk nonsense like this. It's just scrub quotes. This should be, you know what? I'm adding scrub quotes to this. I'm adding scrub quotes to this just for this video. At scrub quotes. I'm adding scrub quotes to this. And yo, cheater gets DQ'd at an event, attends a higher level event and gets to second, then starts talking about should have been a champion. LOL. Hello? Nah, that's my quote to you. Y'all saw that live, okay? Hope y'all like my little typing skills. I'm a fast typer. Anyway, past the scrub quotes, past that, this is what's happening about cheating in competitive Magic and the judge program. This is ultimately what's going on in the system right now. I wouldn't have, I would imagine it's a lack of wizard supported judging system. No more public list of players suspended for cheating has something to do with it. Blah, blah, blah. This is what's going on. So let's see what happens with cheating and how this all lands up. I encourage all of you, next time you see your judges, thank them, befriend them, support judges, but also be willing to call them out as well. Because yes, there are bad things that happen with judges. They are supposed to be, meant to be held accountable, but also call out Wizards of the Coast and help hold them accountable for not supporting judges so that we can take out the bad eggs and have a good system that supports competitive Magic, that supports constructed play, and also supports Magic at an educational level. Judges are educated. They know the rules of the game. They will help you learn. They will help you be a better player, which can help you be a better Commander player as well. Even if judges are directly involved in your Commander game, do you not want to be a better Commander player as well? Do you not want to be a better Magic player? Judges fundamentally, from a rules perspective, from an education perspective, from a liaison good people perspective, are a fundamental pillar of this game. It is the central problem of why cheating is rampant in this game right now, is because judges aren't supported. And you see what happens when judges are supported, but with the poor system involved. That's Wizards of the Coast. We need to know who the real problem is. Folks, I hope I haven't been yapping too long here. I hope you get the point of what I'm trying to speak here. And I don't know. I hope y'all agree. Let me know if I'm at any point I'm being wrong or hyperbolic here. This is just, a lot of this is some of my feelings and what I've learned over the past couple of years. So let me know what you think. Anyway, I'm done here. I don't want to go too far. But anyway, have a great week.